All right, guys, here we go. So Ken Klippenstein released this the other day. The FBI knocked on my door. The powerful federal agency tries to edit me. Last Friday, a young special agent from my local FBI office arrived at my Madison, Wisconsin home to read me a statement prepared in Washington. The Bureau told me that I had been the target of a foreign influence operation with regard to a news article I had written, a clear reference to my publication of the J.D. Vance dossier. No subpoena, no search warrant, no prior announcement, no claim of illegality. America's most powerful law enforcement agency wants me to know that it was displeased. It is delivering what many would consider a chilling message. We know where you live. We know what you've done. We are watching. This is how out of control the disinformation and foreign influence hysteria has become. When I chose to publish the J.D. Vance dossier, I knew and acknowledged in the story that it had probably come from Tehran. This placed me at odds with the entirety of major media, which in an extraordinary act of self-censorship declined to publish the dossier. When is the last time that many people were able to agree on anything, much less reporters who are supposed to be an unruly bunch? How did this even happen? The FBI visit provides a clue. Powerful organizations like Twitter, Meta, Google, and now the FBI have appointed themselves arbiters over the news you get to consume. They decry threats to democracy in the form of foreign interference, influence, disinformation, misinformation, and even conspiracies. That ultimately undermines the most powerful engine of our democracy, which is freedom of speech and expression. The special agent, a blonde-haired man so young he looked like he might have tripped over his umbilical cord on the way over, looked stumped when I asked what was the point of his visit, given that I had been careful in my article on the Vance dossier to stress that Iran had likely hacked it. He confessed that he hadn't even seen my article, asking when I had published it. About 2 weeks ago, I replied, adding, "What took you guys so long?" 2 weeks is pretty fast for the federal government, he said. The special agent flashed his badge to identify himself, but would not let me photograph it. He declined to provide me with a business card. I asked if I could take a picture with the statement that he was told to read. He said no. When I pushed, the special agent said that he would ask his superiors if he could send it to my email, which I then gave him. I then contacted the FBI's National Public Affairs Office in Washington asking about the visit and whether any other members of the news media had been contacted by the FBI. The FBI has no comment. A representative of the FBI National Press Office responded via email. Whoever wrote that email, they did not identify themselves by name. The FBI is fond of saying that it does not investigate or interfere in First Amendment protected speech. But if you look closely, there's fine print that provides a carve-out for foreign influence operations. Consider the statement issued by FBI's assistant special agent in charge of the Portland field office, George Chamberlain. At the top of the FBI's list of core values is protection of everyone's rights under the U.S. Constitution, including the rights granted under the First Amendment. Fake news, for instance, is not necessarily illegal, and the FBI cannot initiate an investigation based on First Amendment protected speech. We will take action, though, when the activity crosses the line into criminal behavior. Specifically, influence operations run by foreign groups or governments can fall into that category. The frenzy over foreign influence operations is a moral panic that lacks any rational justification. There's no evidence that these operations have meaningfully influenced an election. FBI Director Christopher Wray has said that Americans can and should have confidence in our election system because none of the election interference efforts that we've seen over the cycles have put at jeopardy the integrity of the vote count in any material way. Okay, so he goes on here. You guys can go read the rest of it if you'd like to read the rest of it. But the bottom line here is the rest of the media, like a lot of them melodramatically announced, like, we have received the J.D. Vance dossier, and then they got on their high horse and were like, we are not going to publish it because it may have come from a source we don't like. They did this whole thing over it, right? And it's like, well, that's really curious because I remember when WikiLeaks reported on internal stuff for Hillary Clinton, and every news outlet ran with it, right? Now, here's the thing. I'm happy they did. I think that's good. I think if something's newsworthy, you should report it, right? So I think they did the right thing then. But they reported everything on Hillary, and now they're reporting nothing on the Trump campaign with J.D. Vance. What a weird time to discover, like, oh, we're going to make a carve-out here because we think the source of the information is bad, so we're against it. No, you have to be consistent. You have to either be, I'm against it when it's Hillary and I'm against it when it's Trump and J.D. Vance, or I'm for it in both cases. Ken is for it in both cases. I'm also for it in both cases, right? This is what the media is supposed to do. Guys, I need you to understand this. It wouldn't even matter if there was some ulterior motive from the people who are hacking it and giving it to you. That wouldn't matter. If you're a journalist, you have the right and the freedom to report on it, right? Now, you can make your own judgment call as to what's important and what's not important, etc., but you have a right to do it. And so for him to report it and then the FBI shows up at his door, there's an implied threat there of like, hey, careful. Careful what you report on. Why? Because it may have come from Iran. So what? He literally points out in his article, he's like, even if it's from Iran, what would their reason be for wanting to get this out there? Because Donald Trump ripped up the Iran nuclear agreement and assassinated Qasem Soleimani and is openly talking about how Israel should attack Iran's nuclear facilities, and he's willing to go to war with them in a second term. Somebody got in Trump's ear and said Iran's trying to assassinate him. It's total bullshit, but he believes it. Now he's out there being all hawkish on Iran. So they have every reason to not want Trump to win, right? And so hey, we hacked this dossier. Do you guys want to report on it? And Ken's the only one that's consistent in his worldview and was willing to report it because it's newsworthy. Look, if we're talking about, hey, I was able to get pictures of Hunter Biden's dick and balls, like, let me run it. There I actually understand going, there's nothing newsworthy here. There's nothing newsworthy, and you're just genuinely violating somebody's privacy, right? So that I understand, you don't have to run something like that. But stuff about Hunter Biden corruption, yeah, you should run that. Stuff in the J.D. Vance dossier, yeah, you should run that, right? And everybody's just totally flipped on all of their stated principles overnight. It's like what happened with Elon Musk. He bought Twitter because, oh my God, Jack and the previous regime at Twitter censored the Hunter Biden laptop, and that's unacceptable, and I'm going to come in here and bring free speech back. And then he gets in there, and he banned Ken Klippenstein because Ken Klippenstein reported the J.D. Vance dossier. So he did the exact same thing he was pissed off about the previous regime at Twitter for doing. And then it came out that Trump actually asked Elon Musk to pull down Ken Klippenstein, and so with his tail between his legs, he had to allow Ken back on because that literally may be illegal, that sort of high-level coordination between a campaign and a social media outlet, right? So he had to put his tail between his legs and sort of walk it back and allow Ken back on. But guys, this isn't debate. The point I'm trying to make is this is not debatable, right? This is not debatable. It's not. They lied and said, oh, it's Ken doxed J.D. Vance. That's why we're cracking down on it. Well, everything that Ken put in there was publicly available information. By definition, that's not doxing. And then, by the way, he bent over backwards and said, anything that might even be misconstrued as doxing, I'll take out. And they didn't allow him back on right away. It was only when the news came out that Trump coordinated with Elon Musk that they finally let him back on. But guys, this is crazy, right? This is crazy. So you have the media is self-censoring here. The media is self-censoring. No, if something is newsworthy, you report it. Even if the people giving you the information have ulterior motives, if it's newsworthy, you report it. This is like what the First Amendment is all about. This is what it's all about. So, and then by the way, all this trouble, and there's nothing insane in the J.D. Vance dossier. There's just not, right? What's more interesting is what's not in there. The stuff they didn't realize about J.D. Vance. They didn't realize he made all the crazy childless cat lady comments, and he's been saying ridiculous things about abortion for a really long time. Like, all the things that they put in there about, like, hey, we need to be careful. This is a point of weakness. It's like J.D. Vance criticized Trump when he killed Soleimani. And they were like, hey, this is a bad thing. So we need to be careful if we pick. It's like, that's one of the best things J.D. Vance has ever said, right? So, God damn it. It's all right-wing idiots who are running the Trump administration. And that dossier kind of proves it. But no, according to the media, you're not allowed to see newsworthy information because something, bad countries, bad actors, whatever. It's like, fucking grow up. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.